Bob, just so you know, Bob is going to be a little, maybe about a half hour late too.
Okay, well then maybe it would be better to, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, just both of them we can. Well, how about if we do public safety, because we start off with
Sure.
noise,
Sure.
and then by the time we get to the bump.
Yeah, and I've got an email I forwarded to you guys, so I can talk about that. I mean, if Bob's here to talk about that, that's fine. So yeah, those are two things we, go ahead, Linda.
Okay, so how about we call the meeting of the public safety to order? Let's see, all the coming and all the organizations not going to be here. Okay, approval of the minutes of the previous committee meeting. I'll make a motion. Will you second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unfinished business. PL 49-20 by Dr. Robinson. To amend the City of Olean Code of Ordinance, Chapter 15, noise. Vern?
Well, I take it the lawyer has looked at this and he's reviewed it, and he did say that he was questioning one aspect, and that was how do you determine the 50 feet. But he did say that I guess the police officers have maybe the chief there's a method that some of the police officers have where they can determine 50 feet just from experience or
Tape measures.
yeah. Well, look, I look at it this way. You know, majority of people here bow hunt, and I know I bow hunt. A lot of us that hunt can determine feet. I would assume the expertise of a police officer, they should be able to determine distance of feet. The average property that we have here in Olean, going down a number of streets anyway, are pretty much 40, 50 feet. So if you're hearing noise from the next house over, it's too loud. It's as simple as that. And then the other thing that we were looking at was the penalties. He said he didn't have any issues with that aspect of it. So if that was one of the things that we were questioning, I guess it's up to the council to where they're at and how they feel.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on Kevin?
The only thing I was fine with everything except for my recommendation was the 6 a.m. versus 7 a.m. But which I didn't think was a make or break. You know what I mean? I don't see the partiers or, you know what I mean? A lot of the noise complaints you get are the people drinking, hooting, hollering, things like that late at night. So,
So, I mean, to go along with that, Kevin, just to talk about the time frame again, Vernon, just to refresh.
Mm-hmm.
We did make it go an hour later on the weekends, right?
Starting Friday night.
Did we also, would it be something to consider then maybe an hour later, 7 a.m., say on the weekends, and then 6 a.m. for the weekdays? Would that make, is that what you're suggesting, Kevin? Is it move?
Well, my suggestion was more workload and stuff like that. I would hate to be loading a van at 6 a.m. to get to a job site by 7, not making noise, not running compressors, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I mean, like...
I'm okay with it.
If you're loading up, what compressors are you?
No, I'm not, that's what I'm saying. I'm not running compressors, I'm saying, but you know what I mean? Like, I've had neighbors in the past that, like, if you walk out your door and you fart on your way to work, if there was a noise ordinance, they would have been the kind to call on you. You know?
I think it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, we can pretty much nitpick that.
Diesel trucks.
You test run it. If there's a problem, it's unfair.
Right.
Yeah.
You revisit it and you say, we change it.
Yep.
Okay, so Tiffany, do we vote on this and pass it on?
Yep, vote to approve and refer to
City attorney or?
regular meeting. I'm sorry, I don't think it's
So this has to
regular
get,
meeting, no letters.
this has to get posted, right?
Yeah,
Will there
that's
be-
why it's gonna take so long.
Will there be a public, no.
Oh.
Okay.
But it has to be published. Okay, so we refer it and it'll be on
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, carried. Okay, next, new referrals for consideration. PL 61-20 from Crawford to amend the city Olean Code and Ordinance Chapter 5 Housing Code to include Article 6, short-term rental registration and licensing. Alderman Crawford?
Sure. Thanks, Linda. This has obviously been something that we've covered now a number of different times. I want to, and I know it was short notice ahead of time. I've asked Tiffany to give each of you a copy of the proposed legislation. I've reached out to Nick, and I was hoping Nick was going to be here tonight, but he's not. I've reached out for comments. I've got some different questions on this. So each of you has a copy of the short-term rental, yes, as it stands. Did you guys get one? Mayor, do you have one?
I'm going to hear that the 4 to the 5 tonight.
I know. And I'm not going to necessarily make a motion on it tonight. I did want to just talk about a couple different things. So first of all, you didn't get a copy, Vernon? It looks like it's behind those.
It's yeah, and then I've got like 4 of these. Are these supposed to be like 3 pages long?
There's 3 resolutions.
Yes, there's 3.
And then
Oh, okay, gotcha. Just making sure I didn't have like duplicates and had everybody else's copy or something. Okay.
So John, you just want to go through and highlight that we want.
I'm going to highlight the main points. So first of all, I want to thank Captain Jennings and Chief Richardson. You know, I had kind of this rough outline put together, you know, for what I think the residents are looking for, and they came through with a very clean document, well-defined. I went through it, and there were only a couple suggestions, and again, I deferred to Nick. I want to get some feedback from him. But essentially, well, I mean, Captain Jennings, the one that wrote it, so wrote most of this. So I'm going to ask Captain Jennings if he has anything, you know, to kind of give a rundown, an idea of what they're going to be proposing here. Do you want to add anything, Ed, to this? Do you want to give a rundown?
Yeah, I think the things that you added were pretty cool.
So the 2 things that I added, you know, Ed pretty much identified the safety equipment, the process. So when someone wants to start a short-term rental, they would have to receive a permit from the city. Initially, there would be required a site plan review and at a fee of $150, which would be kind of a very thorough inspection of the property. And then subsequent annual inspections that are similar to our rental inspections already on the books of $60 a year. You know, and it's really just in ensuring that, you know, we're encouraging tourism, but at the same time, it's not the Wild West. The concerns of residents are that these are popping up in R1s, R2s, and R3s. And so the 2 things that I put in here, in addition to what Captain Jennings had, was can we require hazard insurance? You know, can the owner provide proof of hazard insurance on the property and maintain that throughout the duration of the operation? And as well as, and this is something I was talking to Nick about, excluding R1s, R2s, and R3s without a special use variance. So, listen, I'm okay with the idea that these pop up in a residential neighborhood if the neighborhood is in agreement to have it there, right? So, you know, through the special use process, it would provide the neighborhood with some recourse. They would have to get notified. There would be a hearing, say at the planning board or the zoning board, and the neighbors the community would be able to have yes, we want this in our neighborhood, or no, we don't want this in our residential neighborhood. So I thought that was pertinent to include in the legislation. But a lot of this, I know I just forwarded this to you guys. I wanted to make sure that you guys have a chance to read this. Ed, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, the major thing with this is, the bigger thing is transient occupancy that's coming in the city. And we have nothing on the books at all for this, for people coming into a residential area. Or we're trying to just fit this into our rental inspections. Like if you have an apartment, right now, when it changes hands, you have to have it inspected. We're trying to just group this into that whole thing, and being a business, it's a site plan. And we didn't know how to do that, but we figured once a year for an inspection for these properties instead of like they're transient, so they're gonna be coming and going all day. But we get in there once a year and they pay the same $60 fee for an inspection. We make sure these properties are kept up to spec. I mean, that's what the whole plan is, just to keep them in check. And we know that they're here.
Right. We know, and again,
Nothing on the books.
from a fire perspective, from a safety perspective, I know Chief Richardson had brought that up before. It's nice to know if you've got a couple different, Airbnbs, that you might have people in, or how many people are there, be able to, this establishes max occupancy, for example. So you guys are able to keep tabs on that. So, Chief Richardson, do you have anything that you would want to add on this?
No, I think it's spot on, something we needed, and
Okay.
good to see it.
So again, I'm not looking, for tonight, I'm gonna postpone the resolution, or the PL, and punt it to next time, so you guys have a chance to read it and provide comment back. And then I'm gonna try to follow up with Nick and see if he can give some comments on the draft here. Any questions?
John, just so I can kind of get my bearing here on this a little bit.
Yeah.
Is this all new, the whole chapter on the short-term renting, or just what you've shown in blue?
Oh, no, the whole thing would be new.
The whole thing would be new?
Yeah, so a lot of this, so I kind of, like I said, I provided a rough outline. The fire department and codes really gave a really good, all of this is all new, that is in the proposal. And then a couple areas that I added was, again, just requiring insurance on the property and restricting the property. So those were what I added in blue. But I read through this, and it's meeting the needs of what I believe our neighborhoods are looking for, making sure these places are safe, making sure that there is some regulation, some process, because essentially they are running a business now, and these businesses are popping up in residential neighborhoods, right? And I don't want to deter. I don't think it's important. I don't want to deter tourism. And hopefully, as Olean continues to revitalize, more of these things pop up. It seems to be a trend, a growing trend. But I think we still need to have some process in place so these aren't just popping up all throughout our residential communities.
Well, I'm only looking over it quick, but something I don't see is whether it applies to hotels or not. And if we need to exclude them, if we want to exclude them, or how we...
Hotels are already on our books.
Yeah, they would be excluded.
Okay.
They're inspected on a different frequency.
Okay.
So they're more, the fire department inspects them on a yearly basis, or actually every year.
So there is in our code hotels and motels and those types of things, but there was nothing, for the Airbnbs, the VRBOs, these short-term rental units that are popping up.
I just feel like, without seeing and understanding the actual details, the specific exclusion, so that we don't get wrapped up in tying them into it.
Yeah, no.
And they're required to get a business license through the city at all, or no? Through this?
Not in this.
Okay, because I remember speaking with Nick when we were talking about revising the landlord rental law to make it more of a business license, because then with a license you can mandate that they have insurance. and name the city, because just having them have insurance doesn't mean that they are naming the city as an insured for liability purposes. House burns down, city is guaranteed to get a check from the insurance company. House burns down, city has to fight insurance company to get the money back.
Sure.
So
that's a good point, and why I would like to get some feedback from our city attorney on that. So that would be great.
Kevin, along those lines, and Don, maybe you could talk to Nick about this. So the business license, wouldn't they need that to have with their tax ID so they pay sales tax?
there's no license. It's just because you go to the government for like 17 different numbers. You know what I mean? You get your EIN for your employer identification number for the IRS. Used to be that Social Security numbers and EINs were that was the only thing you used it for. Now other government agencies track that number, but it's literally just an identification code. So you still got to get a sales tax ID number. You still got to get, depending on what your business entails, you've got a bunch of other different things. So
I can follow up on that.
No, I apologize for coming in late, but I'm in favor of this. Just generally speaking, it's a kind of a new business category, and I think it's smart that we're doing something on it more proactively. I've had some complaints from people in my neighborhood because there's in Seneca Heights, I should say, there's a Airbnb in there. It's gotten a little rowdy at times. I don't know that this necessarily addresses that per se, but it certainly puts a little bit of a control in place.
Well, to that point, Paul, the idea is, most likely those existing ones will be grandfathered in, but it would. I bet you the neighbors in that community up there would have liked to have had a say whether or not that was going to be allowed.
Right.
And under this, right, excluding them from R1, R2, and R3s would give those individuals, those residents, a say whether they want essentially a mini hotel, people coming and going in their residential neighborhood.
They might not have to go in front of the planning board for their variance in the R1s or R2s, but with grandfathered Airbnbs, you'd want to try to find a way to address the fact that they get into the cycle of at least being inspected once a year. That would be a big thing to figure out if it is at all possible, because you don't want, now you've got rental properties being inspected regardless, retroactively, and then you've got all these new people setting up Airbnbs, and you get this small category of ones that already exist that are just exempt, right? Not getting smoke detectors, and things like that. So.
Well, how about they're only exempt if this gets approved, they're only exempt for 1 year, and then after that, then
They go on the cycle. Yeah, they're exempt from maybe the fact that they didn't get permission.
Yeah, or maybe for a quarter,
I think Captain might have something to say about that.
Well, as far as being grandfathered in, they're not. Well, number one, if you're in an R1 and R2 district, transient occupancy is not allowed, plus right now. So if they're being used now, they're being illegally occupied. This law would put them on the books, and what the theory is. Grandfathered in, they're not grandfathered in.
Okay.
So they would all probably get a notice from
We
the.
just have to meet our requirements.
Right. Okay.
We try to put them on the books. And like Paul said, this is a new category, and every city's trying to catch up with it, and it's something that we should just catch up with, really, just so we can address it and have it on the books.
Okay.
Right now, there's nothing, and that's why they exist. There's nothing to stop it.
Okay.
I think you made a good point in that, a lot of times when we're trying to consider like what should we do about this policy or this law, what do other cities do? I think it's so new that not a lot of those cities have a lot. Not that it's unheard of, but I mean, would you agree with that? That not a lot else out there, right?
The ones that have it are like really big cities,
Yeah.
which really don't apply to our situation.
Right.
But the other issue you come into, and if you're the first to the game, you create the new legislation. Now you've got to work out the bugs. But then there's also, like with any legislation, when we were rewriting the landlord law, we used other cities that had gone through it and been taken to court, like all the way up to the district Supreme Court of the state, to kind of vet it out. Like, okay, are we violating anybody's rights? Because once you start doing that, they throw your whole law out regardless, and then the court sets precedence over any bugs that you thought you had worked out.
Right. Lots of precedents.
Yeah.
But I think this is good because it kind of puts in place a template. so everybody's being treated the same way. I know when we did the registration, everyone were, you know, we had landlords come and complain, they said you're targeting us, and you're not allowed to do that. So we were very careful how we did it. And I think doing it this way, you know, everyone's going to be treated fairly, no matter what neighborhood you're in. So no further questions. John's going to hold this off to the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to postpone this PL.
Okay, a second. On favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on. Discussion on bump on Route 16 near roundabout. And I have to tell you, that bump has been there for a couple of years. I think Bob's not here, I'm sorry. Nate last year brought it up. The year before he brought it up. I brought it up last year. It's on both sides of the bridge.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're bringing it up again.
Well, so it literally, I was, and listen, it happens to the best of us. Yes, I slowed down by the time I hit that first roundabout, but it's that transition area where you're coming down, you know, and you're going 45, 40. And even if you hit that at 35 miles an hour, I had my wife's van, and like, I want to say we did a little bottom out there. And I just called up Bob, and I'm like, what the heck, you know? There is no, like, I mean, in some ways, it acts as almost a speed bump. I mean, it does slow somebody down, but it would be great to know that it existed, right? It would be great to know that it was there. So I called up Bob, and I said, what do we need to do to put up a warning sign that this, you know, this bump or depression exists? And Bob gave me and said, you know, that's the state road. So I had to contact the state DOT.
Dave Anastasia?
No, in Salamanca. And I talked to their engineer there, and she sent me the arterial maintenance agreement with the city and said that if we wanted to put up a sign there, that it was really up to the city of Olean. Because, and Bob's here now, so he can probably maybe address the more technical aspect of it, but the actual, the depression or the bump itself, which I have a picture that's going around, you guys can check out, is at the joint of the bridge and the road. And so they were concerned, you know, is there a safety issue, meaning like, is the joint not stable? Is something defective with the joint? From my understanding from the conversation back and forth, that might not be the case, but it certainly has presented a troublesome area in the road, which if you're not paying attention, or if it's at nighttime, or if it's snowing, you hit that, it certainly wakes you up. And so, anyways, Bob, do you have anything you would care to comment before I'm just asking to put up a sign.
I mean, Linda brought this up to me probably last year sometime, and I looked at it, and it is failure in the bridge, and state-owned bridge, state-owned road, so I was kind of surprised that they were nonchalant about us putting something up on the road without going through the hoops that you typically have to go through. I mean, as far as the sign goes, I don't think it hurts to put a sign up. I don't think I looked, there's not really any accidents there, so it's not going to prevent anything. It is a nuisance, and hopefully the state will fix it at some point, and we'll take the sign down at that point, but.
Well, on both sides of the bridge, you feel it.
Yeah, and when we have a maintenance agreement to maintain state roads, but this is beyond our scope. I wouldn't touch that expansion joint, you know, that has to be state to fix that.
So that's interesting. You know, so that's I've been on a number of emails back and forth, and it sounds to me, you know, obviously the more expensive route is to actually repair this joint, and it seems like, you know, both sides are kind of batting that back and forth, and I'm like, well, in the meantime, can we at least get a bump sign just to, you know, notify automobiles that it exists? Who takes care of it or who repairs it? Well, we can continue going, because they, you know, my conversation with the state DOT was, oh no, in our maintenance agreement, the city is to take care of that. and Director Ring might have a different perspective on that and thinks it's outside of the scope. So I mean, we can continue maybe trying to work with them to get something fixed there.
When was the last paving up to that joint, Bob? I saw something in the email.
2 years ago.
Just 2 years.
Was it last year maybe?
It's fairly recent, wasn't it?
Now, this was a concern that we had back when the North Union Street project went in, because they did some paving in that area, but they wouldn't pave from the bridge south to the roundabout. They paved North Union Street extension. They took yesterday to move some money around the state just so they could do that. But at that time, we had questioned it, that joint and all that, and the state took a look at it and said it's fine. So we've been dealing with them for many years on this particular problem.
Yeah, you can tell something moves because the way the pavement cracks there. It's obviously in motion, right? Slowly over time. I mean, in the picture, you can see the cracks where the pavement's pulling away as it moves.
Yeah, there's something wrong with that section of the concrete. You can't put blacktop over that either. The expansion joint's gonna move and fail every year, so you make a bigger mess.
I wonder if the state's ever seen those guys on TV that come in with the phone and jack up the concrete to fix your driveway. They might be able to do that. I don't know how well it works and if it can be done on highways, but it looks cool.
I like to use those things as reminders
It's
if I don't have it.
Truck that comes in and cuts the hole in the pavement, pulls it out, yeah, that's like Star Trek, that actually does not exist. Nobody's ever built one now.
Yeah, the flashlight videos that they sell you online. Like, yeah, this thing will cut paper.
Right.
You buy. I spent $30. Look, I bought on a credit card. I fought it, and I got my $30 back, and I got a piece of crap flashlight that does worse than any other flashlight you can buy.
Doesn't actually set things on fire.
No, I thought that was the coolest thing ever, and yeah, it was. You hold it up to paper, you start a fire, you can see through the woods. I thought that was a really cool gimmick, but
Yeah. Actually, we do in North Union. We got a bridge we can slide.
I'll buy that as soon as I close on my swampland in Florida.
So if you guys, I mean, it seems like I don't hear any pushback. Bob sent some guidance as far as, putting up a road sign. So I'll put forward a PL to, whatever the recommendation is from Bob, whether it's one on each side or whatever. Just, I think we said probably some sort of warning sign, and then as well as, did you say a speed sign, Bob? Is that what you said?
The plaque, they call it, so it's underneath the other sign.
It's a speed plaque.
This big, it's not an actual speed sign, it says 130 miles an hour, and it just reminds you of the speed of the road there.
Okay.
When you're coming off the 4-lane,
Right.
people are still down there pretty fast there.
They just have to hit it once or twice, and then
Yeah, I'll wake you up.
It's worse for semis, just so you know.
I was driving behind a semi today, and that thing, I was coming right down because I took my daughter out to the orthodontist, and I was coming back that way, and I was following a semi, and boom, that thing hit there. Yeah. Okay.
Don't have it.
That's all I got.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. COVID-19 update. Mayor, did you have?
Says Alderman Witte.
As you know, there's been talk from the governor's office about adding Pennsylvania to that, and apparently that's not going to happen right now. So that's a good thing for us here. But there's been an uptick in cases. I'm back on a weekly call now to the hospital to give us information there. So if things keep on the rise here, we may want to consider closing our meetings down to the public or go virtual. But we'll just have to take it, I guess, day by day until we see what's happening here. Also, which was I guess another secret from the governor's office, we have until April 1st of 2021 to have a pandemic plan to the governor's office. So I have Tim Richardson and Brad Camp and Michiko. We're working on that plan. What's that?
When a pandemic is announced, we hide under our desks.
Now, what that means is that we have to have a plan in place on who is essential workers, who is not essential workers, who can work from home, who can't work from home. Are we closing down our facilities? Are we doing this? We have to put it all. And we've already done a lot of it. We just have to have it in writing to the governor's office.
Who reads all this stuff? There's got to be some really high-paid jobs there at the governor's mansion that just like read all these documents that municipalities have to send them.
It's called internships, John. They give them class credit for it.
I don't think anybody reads them because I think you file them with them and they check it off and file them, But and the reason I'm saying they don't read it because we didn't have concerts in the park because we couldn't.
Right.
We could meet the 50. But then a neighboring community had all kinds of concerts and large crowds and all that. And they submitted a plan to the state, is what I've been told. And apparently, I don't know if anybody reads them now.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying.
Right.
But anyways.
And then the drive-in held a couple concerts, and the health department came and shut them down because there's 0 concerts, regardless of people in their cars.
There's a difference in how your county health departments are interpreting things too.
Yeah, because Erie did it. Yeah. So.
Well, what I wanted to do is to piggyback on what Bill just updated us on. I asked the county health department just for some numbers about our region. We're considered the southeast quarter. And so far today, we've had 216 out of the 358, 14 deaths, and in our region, we had 8 out of the 14. Total active cases right now is 64, that's in our region. So I just wanted to get some numbers to kind of, put some numbers to what Bill's saying. Also, as far as healthcare providers, they account for about 1/4 of the numbers of the positive. So that's just some information I had.
Are those numbers all total, like since the get-go, like March 15th, or is that like we've had 14 deaths since the uptick started?
No, this is from the beginning.
Gotcha. Just clarifying that it's.
If you want me to, I can just pass this around to you.
So many deer killed people this year hunting.
So I think we should also talk about the prospects of going vertical and, maybe if we don't do it, I'm sorry, Linda, I totally hijacked that. Is that okay?
Yep.
I think we should talk about the prospects of going virtual and, even if we don't necessarily want to say, okay, next week, that's it, we're going virtual, but we need to be better prepared to do that, right? So my daughter was in class with the kid that got the whatever, at high school, she had to quarantine, she lives with me, so I had to quarantine, sort of, I don't know, that's always this weird gray area, right? But, that was a mess when I had to try to fall into that. Like, holy crap, this has been going on for 9 months now, and we don't have this figured out yet. Like, if there was some big thing, we're not ready for that.
No.
And we need to get.
I think what you just said, Paul, is we should be able to Zoom from this room. We have an IT department. Why can't we put that together?
Sure.
And I think the other thing that I was hearing from parents, with the school situation, they, I'm not saying they kind of missed the boat on it, but it was like disjointed the way that it came out.
Well, it's just like, look at this thing right here behind you. I know that's the course, right? Okay, so that's the course. We can't use that. How much would it be for us to buy one of those? I mean, it can't be that expensive. $3,000. Okay, let's buy it, and we'll have that to.
Right. And it's also easier for the live streaming if, like, when we're all at, like, that one meeting we did, like, you don't want to have an audio issue because everybody's got their own mic, camera, everything. It just looks like the Brady Bunch, and you just capture the screen, and it can go live right from there with that software.
Now, I know, like, I'm not, like, giving the IT department here too much grief, right, because I only gave you guys, like, 4 hours notice. But we should be able to.
tradition, so.
We haven't met since March, April, and it looks fine.
Yeah.
You know,
A friend of mine is on the Corning City Council, and they meet virtually every week.
And I think, you know, the way the numbers are,
Clarify.
particularly going into the flu season, I think you're going to see them either hold or.
They meet virtually every week. Like, so some weeks they miss.
So,
This is a discussion.
I do know that the new software that we have too for streaming purposes can sync up with Zoom.
Yeah.
So if we are able to all log into Zoom, and if that's, you know, the uptick happens, we make a consensus to go virtual, and our IT department, whatever needs to be done to set up a Zoom meeting for all of us, Jason should have the information how to stream our meetings right there.
And this is not high-level IT work. This is intern level IT work. This should not be a problem for our guys.
I would think not.
I think it's a no-brainer.
Other than their manpower, like their labor hours, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes, like, I don't know, it's like, hey, this crime shouldn't be hard for the police department, but when you're short-staffed or you've got guys that are on vacation or whatever, sometimes, you know what I mean? Or even the fire department or whatever, hey, we got 3 guys that are on disability, you know, on, like, they broke a leg or, you know what I mean, whatever, and this guy's on vacation, we're short-staffed at the fire department, like, just...
So are we gonna set a threshold, or we just,
I think we should be moving now to prepare to have all that, like, I don't know, if there's a dollar amount that we need to spend on a piece of hardware, then let's figure out what that is.
Are you suggesting like a time frame that we go
no, I
virtual?
mean, a threshold as far as you're saying there's an uptick. I mean, right now in our area, we have 216. So are we gonna say, you know, once we get to 250, should we absolutely go virtual, or are we gonna wait until we're 300, 400, or so what's our threshold?
There could be 50 people, there could be 3 people, but if it's one of us, it doesn't matter.
I want to podcast at that guy's house, or girl.
Well, and I think now, as Bill, you mentioned about
I'm trying to get
Pennsylvania,
chickenpox.
you know, there's so many people that work in New York State that come in from Pennsylvania, and, you know, that's another, I mean, I know probably a third of the people I work on OB with are from Pennsylvania. So they're coming in and out every day. And I know it's hard for New York State to close that border, but I think that's a possibility of the numbers going up just from that. And the other thing that I was asked is, and I don't know how everybody else feels about Halloween, not a national holiday or anything, I'll probably get shot for saying that. But a lot of parents I've talked to don't want, and my neighbors, I checked with a couple of them, they don't want people coming to the door. So I think we need to, because I know Bill, you gave us a couple of suggestions about that. So
Well, that's
how
their
does
choice.
that-
They can leave their lights off, that's their choice.
Yep, a lot of them are.
Yeah, and that's why we've gone to an alternate of having a candy shop over here at Lincoln Park. Now, Vern and his wife are gonna help out, and I would invite any one of you that would like to help out on Halloween night from 4 to 6. The plan is to have people lines for each, both sides, cars that drive down, will drop candy in their bags as they come out. And so it might be a little hard at 30 miles an hour, but I think we can do it. But that gives the parent, they have a choice. The parents can choose not to take their kids out trick or treating, but we want to do something that still have the night. So
And I think the
So
other thing that changes that.
Get guaranteed 2.
yeah. There'll be a
Election
couple
year.
Donations, if anybody would like to donate to the chamber, they're accepting that, and we'll take it from there. So I'm meeting with them again tomorrow to discuss this a little bit further. So the flyer will be coming out. The YMCA is going to be doing a trunk or treat, I guess it's called. So they'll have things going on there from 3 to, they're going 3 to 5, we're going 4 to 6, the one over here, and Halloween will be 6 to 8. And there again, that's parents' choice to take their children out, or if it's the house, if it's a residence, choice to, if they want to give out candy, they turn their light on, it hasn't changed. And if they don't, then they turn their lights off.
So I think a lot of that's gonna depend on the night, the weather that night too. If knowing Olean, it always rains on Halloween night. But one of the things I heard people are doing is if you have like a card table or something like that set up, and maybe on your porch or whatever, on your driveway, you just kind of like lay out candy and you just have them take it and you place it. So that you're kind of like minimizing them reaching into the same bucket.
Just let the kids bob for it and sanitizer.
That's why I volunteered that night.
I usually have a thing in my driveway.
Maybe 4 or 6.
Bobbing for candy and sanitizer.
Bill, I've got a question for you. Who's ultimately responsible? Because this was a resident who approached me and asked who is ultimately responsible for enforcing the mask mandates, the social distancing mandates. Is it the city? Is it the city's police department? Is it the county health department? Who's responsible? And when we see something along the lines of the state threatening to pull funding for something not complying with the rules, can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, I can. But if you look at all the information coming out of the governor's office, he would like the city to be enforcing all of this. And early on, and Chief, you can probably talk more on this, but because you had a meeting with the county, right? And we were directed to take reports and turn them into the county, and they would forward them on to the health department, who would be the enforcing agency. So that's what we've been doing.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to go out and, just like, we want to give these two a ticket right now, so you're not wearing your masks. So it makes it tough in your own community. No way do I want to put a business here out of business.
Sure.
It makes it very tough. So I think that's why the county took to have everything go to the health department.
Okay.
So Bill, will you give us an update if you hear anything about the Pennsylvania?
So they got the underage.
Yes.
So they got the drinking law changed across the
As
federal
far
government.
as, just one thing I'd like to throw in, since, I
Used to
know
be 18.
Vernon was looking for
Threatened to pull funding.
us to have an idea of how we look at metrics and decide. when we
Interstate
change
commerce.
things.
So they do for underage.
And the things that enter my mind would be, if any of us test positive, obviously, that'd be a pretty good
They won't
indicator.
let your state
to
change the law.
virtual Immediately, but, the other thing that comes to mind is knowing, if you're in touch with the hospital, knowing what their capacity is at. If they're starting to get crunched on the ability to take care of people, that's where I see the problem, right? If healthcare is keeping up, then it's not. I don't really see the issue, because eventually, unless the damn thing goes away completely, it's slowly going to come all. It's just we need to be able to get care, right? So I don't know what that looks like. What are they saying, Bill? What's their current status?
On the call with the hospital on Friday, I believe it was, yes. They had 9 cases, 2 of them were in the ICU. So they're not anywhere near capacity yet, but that may be a good indicator.
Right.
So I wanted to put it out there to everybody. So just to back up a little bit. So what I'm hearing then is that we're talking the apparatus like that there, or making sure that we can go virtual and have either Zoom tied in with our live streaming here, or like that. So, what would you like? Would you like to move forward with this? Get prices?
My only thing is, I think, when you look at other bodies that, you know, school board, the county, they're not creating these, like, arbitrary thresholds. They're just being virtual. We conduct business just as effectively via Skype or Zoom or whatever software we want to use. Although I gotta say, I don't like the go-to-meeting thing there much. I don't know. Why do we feel compelled to do this?
I like hanging out with you guys.
Well, I like seeing all you guys do, and I would love for life to be normal again. But I don't know. It doesn't cost us anything, and
No, you're right, Paul.
if I could do it in my
Yeah.
pajama pants at home and definitely not get any.
No, you're right.
As long as you don't stand up.
I think we need to do some test runs without it being during an issue, right?
I agree. I don't think we're in a place now where
Pick the
we're ready to
system
do
and then
this.
we say, hey, this week we're gonna
Yeah.
test run it.
Yeah.
Probably better off to do it on a committee night when it's a
Yeah.
little looser.
Agreed.
I think we should do that.
But we also
Maybe we don't need anything here.
I don't think
You
you,
know, if we're all gonna do it from home, we just
Well,
test run
you-
how we do it from home.
you still need the host, so, and we have all that, so I don't think you need to buy any more stuff. Like literally, if it's Bill in his office and there's a tablet on him and Jason Wells is sitting there operating it, I'm pretty sure, because he can use that, bring Zoom into it, use that to capture Bill as one of the members of the Zoom, and then he's going out from there.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need anything, or if there's maybe two people here, right? Like,
But see, and there's the thing, we gotta not do that again. Like, the time we did do it, you know, there were people that said they were gonna come and go virtually, and then they showed up, and then people who should have said they were gonna show up, and they got virtually. No, we should all be online, we can all see each other's faces, all have cameras on.
so then the other concern is with council meetings, how do you open up for public comment while everybody's virtual?
Doesn't matter, you don't have to.
Yeah, the county's not doing that.
We're in a state of emergency, there's a declared state of emergency, all those rules and things are out the window.
Sure.
You know, and keep in mind, when somebody, you know, it wasn't one of you that I got positive, it was somebody that I live with, that
Yeah.
works at the hospital, that brought it home. So it's not necessarily one of us giving it to each other, it's somebody, like your wife works at the school, yours works at the school. You know, I mean, it's an outside person bringing it to us, and then we bring it here.
Yeah,
I guess that's what I'm trying
I
to
could
say.
give it to my daughter could give it to your wife gives it to you, and now you're pissed at me.
We're all connected.
So, to answer your question, Bill, so I do believe it's beneficial to get some pricing on what a setup like that would cost to get, because, you know, even if we all start going virtual, down the road, hopefully when life returns, right, to some semblance of normalcy, it still would be nice, because I know, like, when I traveled overseas and I would call in for a couple weeks, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to have one or two members that need to call in virtually can't connect with the rest of us here. Right?
Regardless,
I mean,
right.
you know what I'm saying, Paul?
Yep,
Like-
I did the same thing, I called in from Cape Cod, and it was a pain.
Right.
I could have done it like that.
Right. So I do think having some investment in our just ability to connect here, but at the same time, I think you guys are right. I think we need to start putting together the plan to go virtual sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think we have to look at it as presenting something, not just reacting to when somebody is sick. So I think the sooner the better.
Yeah.
I'm all for going virtual. At the same time, I don't want any. I like the internet, as you all can tell. I like the podcast, every bit of it. But I don't think I wouldn't be doing it for the pandemic reasons, because I still like to have the public comment available for people, regardless. I mean, and I think this is as normal as life is going to get. So I'm going to try to hold on to this as long as I can, because the more you go virtual, the more the virtual will become the normal. You don't get to interact with other people. We essentially would eventually be cutting out the public comment in the future. I don't think that it gets any normaler than this anymore.
Okay? So
Well,
let's,
let's say this, I was on a virtual conference, and there was 800 people at this conference. And it was by, I forget what they used, but it was kind of on the same order as Zoom. No, it was something that was tied in with Zoom. So you could, I mean, we could still open it up to the public, because doesn't the host control who's speaking?
Sure.
Sure.
Mhm.
You could.
So,
Put the,
you
Right.
can still,
link in the,
yeah, you can still open it up to the public,
Yeah.
and when it comes to public comment, then you give them, you turn, whatever you turn their mic on, they can give public comment. But the host can control, so the host can open up to, all the aldermen that have the meeting, and then open up to public comment. Then you get,
WebEx.
That's it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I just took a code enforcement training for the energy credits last week, and they had a panel. One of the panelists was the host, kind of like
Yep.
the city, and then there was like 800 people across the state on it. They didn't have the feature built into theirs for us to use mics or cameras. They had all that disabled, but we could have. So it's,
yeah,
Yeah.
you have to have at home, you have to have, and you could call it too.
Right.
You don't have to have video, but you have to do that. So I think we can still do it and still give the public access and also the comment.
The only thing and we would need to see what types of measures you can put in place for people like that are Zoom bombing and get on camera and do bad things.
Yeah.
You know?
You can probably still figure that out.
But I mean, that's happening though, right? I mean, so you open that up to where additional people can join and possibly turn their cameras on or something like that. So we would just have to see what measures we can put in place to prevent.
like, yeah, if there's like a, kind of like with the broadcasting studio, you're not going on live, they pre-record, you know what I mean?
There's got to be something.
There's a delay, so you can cut it out. Like, okay, we're about to put on Kevin, our favorite Kevin, and he doesn't have a shirt on. Okay, swiping away from Kevin. Kevin, put a shirt on, or we're not putting you on, kind of thing.
Your support level matters, because I've seen huge meetings where they're taking callers on the phone and pitch in, just like residents who want to speak. There's somebody on a computer, they're chatting or they're talking, whatever they call in. What do you want?
that's like the poor guy in C-SPAN takes the call to John Oliver.
Oh, yeah.
The guy over.
There is a chat feature, and there's also question and answers, so people will submit questions.
That'd be good.
And then the host, you have somebody viewing them, and you can, so there's a lot of options here that we can do.
And I think Jason said we should have a
Yeah, the
trial.
test run, right? You'll always find things you need to change when you run it.
But I agree, Zoom is, I like Zoom better than I do this building meeting. So,
Well, let's be honest too, a lot of the public comment that we do get here, right? Obviously, we want more, but I would say it's 50-50 people that just like to get up there and talk and hear themselves talk. I mean, how many public comments could be solved in an email or a phone call that they don't need to get up there and do?
Well, it's true, and if it's easier, we may get better, more interaction, right? The world is virtual. I want to sit here as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because it's more enjoyable.
You just want to breathe all over.
Yes. But.
It's all about my gut biome. It's all about my gut biome.
Okay, how about if we move on?
I said it, but I'm doing you a favor.
We're going to move on to the next item, Boardmanville school signs and speed reduction budget, and I'll hand this over to Bob.
I handed out a handout here, a letter to BOCES, Bob asked me to hand this out. He's here now, so we'll let him talk about it.
We discussed this one time before, didn't we? And we had to establish a few criteria, and it wasn't school, and there were children that walked to and from the school, and or buses, and that it was supported by the school system. So Linda and I corresponded with Bill, and the principal of the school, and that's the first sheet of your handout, is the letter of support from the school district. And to avoid a traffic study, we asked him, put down on paper how many kids walk to and from school, in order to determine whether to do a speed reduction there and establish. It's not really considered a school zone in New York State for whatever reason. They only consider this a speed reduction, and
far, everything that, I attended the zoning and the planning board, and BOCES has been very good, doing whatever they were told. And in the morning, it looks like a lot of buses, but like he said, there's 30 and it's half and half. Half of them in the morning and then the same in the afternoon. During the day, the only people that come and go are some of the staff. They run out to lunch. Every now and then you'll see them taking the kids for walks in the neighborhood. They stay on the sidewalks. They really don't cross from the major streets. I did see a couple kids that walk, and the staff take them and they cross them, and then the staff goes back to the building. So they're doing a really good job. I don't think he put it in the letter, but there are 85 kids that attend that school. So far the neighbors have been fine. I told them to let me know, or Mr. Ebert know, if they had any problems with parking. So far that's going well. So yeah, the next step is to put in the fee reduction in school. So should I just give it to me and we can put together, you can give her the distance and then we can put together some PL?
Yeah, and actually there's two other things that I want to say, want input on. So I recommended a speed reduction to 20 miles an hour. 15 is the absolute minimum that you can go in New York State, but they recommend 10 miles an hour below the posted speed limit, and the average speed there is 31 miles an hour. So I took it down to 20. 15 would be a lot to ask, I think, for that one. And then the second is to establish the time of the school zone. And you can't read it on the paper that I submitted, but I want to say the principal said the hours of operation are 7 to 3:30. So I'm just throwing out like 6:30 to 4 o'clock would be when this speed limit reduction would be in place. But
What is it for, maybe I missed this, I'm sorry, what is it for Oleans or these two, or how would you match that?
there's it's between 15 in some schools and 20 in other schools.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We don't have a city standard.
They're kind of alternating to the traffic.
Wayne is 20 because Wayne is a little bit faster. Street 50, Washington Street is 15, Spring Street is 15.
What is the hours? What is the hours on it? I can't.
The one at the middle school is till 6 p.m.
It's 6, yeah, what is it, the morning, is it 6:30 to 6 or 7:30 to 6? I can't, I'm drawing a blank here.
Even one in the middle school starts at 7. The light starts at 7.
It's probably 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. I know in the middle school.
Yes.
I don't know about the middle. So, Chief Rowley, do you see any issues with doing the reduction or any questions that you might?
You mentioned all the people who live over there that probably going to get tickets. Typically, when you do something like this, the violators you're going to get are the people who live in that area.
Well, I'll tell you, the people that get off of 16 and fly down Main Street because they don't want to come down 16 and.
Oh, I'm sure there's some of those too. So I don't have any issues with doing exactly what Bob has proposed.
And I think if we put it in the paper and let people know, I can let them know. I see most of them, they're my neighbors, so I can let them know. They had this before. We used to have school there. So,
We had a thing that came up a few years ago. I can't remember if it was on which one of the streets over there was speeding. Inevitably, the people that we got were speeding. Some of the people that were complaining, and they're the neighbors, and they got tickets.
yeah. Okay, any other questions on this?
Sounds like he's gonna nail down the time.
I think it's funny that we had
I think
these
it's
schools,
20 would be good.
now we turn around and sold them to somebody privately, and now they're turning
Okay.
around and renting them back to
So
schools.
moving on, next issue, no parking.
I'm buying this building, right into the city.
Mr. Dory, this is your PL, no parking. Let's see, 312.
parking for
North
chickens.
3rd Street.
That's right. I sent. I appreciate the response from Bob and Chief Rowley. A constituent reached out to me. Most of you may know him. It's former Mayor John Ash. So He just mentioned that he owns those 3 buildings right there. He's got quite a few tenants amongst himself and his wife, and when they try to back out, they've got one driveway with a parking lot, and it's just North 3rd Street, the 300 block, is just kind of a nightmare with the school right there. And I know in the past people have talked about making it a one-way street, and he just asked that we review it for purposes of sightline and things like that. Kids come speeding up the street. I figured I'd bring it up as a discussion. Obviously, he's no spring chicken, no pun intended, no chicken reference intended either. But he mentioned that he looks both ways before he backed out, and he ended up getting sideswiped by a young lady like a month ago. And he was like, "Hey, it's something I wanted to bring up." So I at least figured we'd throw it through the blender and kind of get a discussion going and see if it's warranted. That's the most I can.
I think the one thing over there, I remember when my kids attended the high school, North 3rd, there's also a parking lot behind the school.
Correct.
People go in and out, and I can see where someone backing out doesn't even see that person in that parking lot. It's sort of.
Right, and they're all youthful drivers.
Yeah.
So they're paying just as much attention.
So this block's the one that runs right up along the high school?
Right along the high school, yeah. There's a lot of residents there too. I've been down there in the last couple of years just because I've got a couple clients on there, and finding parking is a pain in the butt. Their driveways are all jettisoned at a weird angle, and.
My only concern, I can remember going to school there and hating finding a parking spot.
Sure.
Because I'd have to park at your house. And I'm curious, before we say we're going to knock more vehicles off the street, I'm curious, what is the no parking benefit? Is it just visibility coming out of the driveway?
That's what he was requesting, visibility coming out of his driveway. I guess it depends on who's parking there. You know what I mean? Like if you got a big plumber's van like I have right off the side of his driveway, that could hinder it. But if a small sedan parks there, his driveway's up high enough where you should be able to see somebody coming up the hill. But apparently that's where he got hit. I believe Bob's diagram showed if you got, and I don't know if that was forwarded to everybody or just myself, so, but his diagram was showing that if you remove parking on the south side of the street, you wouldn't actually remove parking, you could bump it back 15 feet from the driveway, but that's not really where much of the issues are coming from. But he requested both sides. The other side, you would eliminate one parking spot.
So how many parking spots get eliminated?
Just one, and there would, yeah.
So one parking spot covered 4 addresses?
For 3 or 4, yeah. It's because they have one driveway that goes into a parking lot behind them.
Oh, gotcha. I had 2 things. One, I know when you started talking about North 3rd and North 4th, North 5th, you're talking about taking away parking spaces for teachers and students. So I know that's going to cause a concern, especially for one constituent. Sure. And then 2, I remember this being similar to the issue I had with a constituent on South 12th that had an issue with backing out of her driveway and hitting a vehicle because it was a narrow road, and that road is a lot more narrower than your road.
Correct.
So
she stopped me this week, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, this one.
I have a rental right down the road from her house, and she stopped me when we were. So.
Yeah, so this one here,
It's.
It goes back to.
It's a gray area, right? Like you don't because with that road too on South 12th, I could see somebody saying, "Hey, it should be a one-way," but you'd have a lot. When you say the word one-way, people lose it.
Yeah.
So can I ask, Chief, when a situation happens where you got visibility like that, somebody gets hit backing out, whose fault is that?
Well, you have a responsibility to look before you back out of the driveway. If the person coming down the road is driving recklessly, it could be either or, depending on the circumstance.
Well, I can answer that too. A few years back, my wife just got a brand new car. She was driving up north from Washington, heading up towards Sullivan. She was driving up the road, a kid up the road, came down, turned into a parking lot. As soon as she got there, he backed right out, hit her. She was considered, I think it was 10% liable. because she saw him when he pulled in, so she was supposed to slow down to allow him in case he backed out, which he did. So, I mean, it's
The
one of those
driver
things.
heads down the road, has the right of way of anybody entering the road.
Right.
But depending on the circumstances, as Vernon mentioned, it could both be involved.
Especially New
Yeah,
York.
so I mean, if that person's visibility is blocked, I would assume some onus becomes on the driver coming down that road, right? I mean, even if I think about Union Street, there's times if I back out next to Kevin's van, I can't see shit.
If the officer lists that on the accident report, the insurance adjuster should take that into consideration. But this is one of the things that, you know, while certainly would like to do something for Mayor Ash, everybody in town would want this available to them.
Especially the people on next door to him and down the street.
Where's it gonna stop?
Right.
Exactly. And why are we picking him over,
Or
because he's squeaky wheel, yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's probably justified, but where is it at?
right.
Right.
Or like when Bosse's occupied the Epic Church building, and every one of the neighbors on West Henley Street wanted, because there is no law that says you have to be so many feet from a driveway. You can park right up to the driveway, as long as you're not blocking said driveway. So, I mean,
How long has Mr. Ash lived in that property there? 100 years? He's got one accident, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
well, the one he mentioned that was recent, I don't know. I mean,
he's got a good record.
Okay, so Kevin, do you want to just hold this, or do you want to?
I mean, I kind of want to get everybody's consensus. I mean, I can put forth a PL and just let it be voted up and down, and then it goes the way of what the council feels, and at least I've done my due diligence for my constituent.
That works.
Cool.
Okay. Okay. Lastly, Mr. Sanders, code enforcement.
Is that 50 feet?
It's a.
He's going by a court while it's in session, so he'd be illegal right now.
It's a
Probably
Seminar.
make a point, most of the noise we're discussing.
Probably drove over the roundabout.
So what I wanted to bring up, for me to get an idea, I mean, I've been in this for almost a year now, and I get a feeling that we have some trouble enforcing code in the city. Sometimes certain things as opposed to others. I do not have a list of specific things and time frames and who's reported and whatnot. I just wanted to talk about it. Specifically, as far as what I really desire, I need from Ed and the mayor is the issue I've been trying to deal with on Charles Street. We've had no activity to deal with that in months, and I have no answer to these people as to why we haven't done anything anymore. And I think the time frame has been excessive and it's uncalled for.
Can you bring me up to date?
So, there's Charles Street backs up to Paul Brown Motors.
Okay.
Within the last time frame, some lights have been changed around there, man, and this light casting. There are some other things they whine about, but the one that I feel they do have a legitimate complaint about is the lighting. The lighting is a nuisance and on their properties, and I think it's something that we need to deal with. And if our code doesn't cover it, maybe we need some adjustments. But at the same time, I wanted to bring it up in this way because I feel like maybe there's some things we need to address as the years go on and up in our ability to enforce code. Just because I get, and I have no way to know, people tell me they've reported things and nothing gets done. I've got no way of, obviously I could say, hey, did this get put in? Did they really report it? I don't know that. But I do get a feeling there may be some issues there. So I want to know if is there staff inadequacy, what's the feeling around the city as far as that goes? Or do we have a problem enforcing and getting anybody to do anything they're asked to do?
Weren't the lights there first?
before the houses.
I have an answer for you, okay? Yeah, this has been an ongoing issue. We're gonna take it, we're gonna pull the planning board minutes and see what the conditions were and address it that way to the planning board. Okay?
Well, I mean, so I think
The answer is one.
Jason brings up a valid concern, and as the body that essentially, funds the departments, passes the budget, I think it's important for us to understand the challenges that certain departments may have, whether it's with manpower or whatever. And I know, Mayor and Captain Jennings and myself, we've gone round and round with a constituent of mine about 2 houses on South 9th Street, South 8th Street, South 9th Street. And in particular, these houses are, next to her house, and the paint is peeling off the houses. And I guess if it's a manpower issue, what do we need to do to start hitting violations of these codes in the pocket? For over a year, right? Mrs. Welch and I, she copies me on everything. She says, "Why aren't you doing anything as the alderman?" And I say, "Well, I keep pushing, and bringing this up. And what can we do as a body help to enforce those types of violations?" Is that what you're essentially asking, Jason?
Yeah.
What role can we have? Is there no law on the book that we, is it okay for a house to have their paint peeling off their house, not take care of it? I have another property that has a tarp that I've brought up for 2 years, a tarp hanging over it. The tarp is tattered. I believe that it was supposed to be ordered to be demolished, and it was back and forth with the city for it to be demolished. The residents around there, I've communicated to them, I'm fighting to try to get this owner of the house to take it down, to remedy it, but I don't believe any tickets have been issued. And so how do we add, it makes me as an alderman feel like I'm failing representing my constituents, and I just need to, I agree with Jason, how do we help you guys succeed?
I can appreciate what you're saying, John, and I think for Ed, is there something we need to do man-wise, or is it something we need to change our policies to make them tougher? I don't know. Do you have any suggestions?
Well, we face a lot of challenges right now. One is the biggest thing with the court system. We can't even get in.
Right.
So if you write a ticket as frivolous, you're not going to go anywhere. The judge has flat out said, don't write anything unless it's very. So pretty much. For John's issue, and we have addressed that, I know it's a long thing. In one house, we made him tear the porch down, and they had a poor contractor with put that post up, and made him tear those down. They put new posts up, and they put just a porch. And his constituent wasn't happy with the porch. They wanted the whole front porch around. We can't allow it. It's not up to me to do. They did what we could. So the other house, that's going to be ticketed. It was ticketed 17. So that's a long point. And she complained about the foundation, which that's out of our own. I understand the painting and the colors. So we're doing what we can on that. And on the issue of fall grounds, I get that. I tried to get more of it. The National Grid has been overwhelmed for several months now, and they've addressed a few things over there, like one parking lot they've redone, and they want to put blacktop down before they put in concrete sidewalks. So that's one avenue they're going to go. As far as the lighting, we do have, like the mayor said, we've already pulled the site plan review, so we're going to go over there and talk to them about what their requirements are for that. But I think the 2 major things are the lighting and the intercom system, which those are the things that we're going to get addressed. They did do something in the intercom system. Apparently, they switched it back up, so we're going to readdress that as well. But as far as the lighting, Kip Morrow from National Grid, we've been hounding him to come over and do that. But it's on a National Grid pole. They have to put shields on it or something. He's supposed to look at it. He hasn't done that. So, and I understand the frustration over there. That's been there for several years. We try to address some things in our office. takes time. Manpower, is always an issue. Myself, I've been, for about 4 weeks, I had to take aside, do a plan review with Manny Haney so we can get that $12 million project up and going. So that took me a while to do the review on the plans there. We've got Ryan Reed, who's way busy doing housing inspections. He's doing a great job, but we've got working plans in Olean, and you can shake a stick at it. Everyone you know that. Secretarial level, we could do more with. I use Tracy for that the best I can right now, and that's the end of our staff. So we do what we can. We try to prioritize. All around is a priority. I understand that. I know we haven't seen much action over there except for the parking lot and the concrete sidewalks. The fencing issues, got one broken fence that we discussed, but I don't see that fixed yet. So yeah, they need to be revisited. We need to find the time.
Yeah.
So we'll do so.
And on the flip side of this, I remember years ago when the new building on First Avenue went up from the hospital, and for months they had their lights so they shine right in all of the people on First Avenue, their living room. It was like they couldn't go to bed, it was so bright. In the hospital, we had to keep reiterating, we've got to change this, and finally they put the shields on. And it's not a big fix, it's just making them do it. And it sounds like we have the same situation at Club Brown. And now it's been fixed. Right.
Right, and part of something I want to make clear too, I have no problem getting involved in helping with this one. And if you were to go down there and look at the place, you'd think it's a bigger issue than it really is. Going down there and meeting with the residents, there are about 3 fixtures that need adjusted or shields or aimed differently or whatever, and it will stop there. It's not, there's 100 lights down there, but there's 3 that are the culprits. So if somebody can get involved to deal with it, as long as I know within a couple hours, I will come point them out if those need pointed out. Because it's, as long as you get to the core of what causes the trouble, it's not all their lighting. There's lighting down there you would think that they would be complaining about, and they're fine with some of it. There's just ones that are really nuisance, and they'd like those dealt with.
Since I've been on the council, and I've spoke to EJ, out of these meetings and things like that, and I've seen codes in action, and they do a great job, but it's always been an issue for them to be understaffed. You know what I mean? Obviously, adding legislation like the landlord law was great. It made a lot of constituents happy, but at the same time, we had to, you've got to bring on somebody. So you bring on Ryan Reed, and he can do that, and then, maybe he spills over a little bit to do some of the other code stuff, but, we're still short-staffed in there. You still have a pile of complaints, and, you know what I mean? I think that, and then at the end of the day, it always comes down to money. It comes down to finding money. And, COVID aside, you know what I mean? Money's always been tight, and, you know what I mean? Now we don't know what's going on with sales tax and things like that, and so planning for the future. But if there was a way, if we had, if we had an arsenal of people applying for positions that we could be, offering at the code office to, to restack that dugout so we can get business handled, I would be all for it.
At one time, Ed, how big was the department?
Our department?
Yeah.
Basically, it's been 3 guys.
It's always been 3 guys?
Pretty much.
Yeah?
Or less.
Left back when Tom Abel was here. He left I think a position.
Now, you used to have a secretary. You don't have a secretary now?
Our secretary was retired from.
They
We used to have a part-time one years ago.
they were borrowing. I think how it worked is they were borrowing the chief's secretary.
Okay. But I thought Kathy.
Okay, right.
Wasn't she full-time?
She's a full-time chief secretary, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And
Try to share between both departments.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So maybe we need to do something about not sharing. Just a thought.
And I guess I would want it, brought up to us if the backlog's going up, sooner than later, that we need to start thinking about budgeting someone, or something, or some change. The other thing is, with the courts advising that, we can't take any more load on that end. I would like to, do we at least still approach things with the, you know, telling people like, hey, you know, here's the situation. You know, I'm not gonna give you a ticket or whatever. At least try to put on them the, hey, here's the code. Normally, you'd be given a fine, or, you know, you will be given a fine if this isn't corrected, and you'll have to answer to someday. Just so people don't start getting the idea that it's free for all, and I also generally get the idea that the younger folks that are coming up and starting to own houses, I just get the feeling generally there's not as much of a care for what things look like. More people tend to pile garbage up and not care about it. And I don't want to see that stuff get out of control. And I think as the years come, code enforcement will be a bigger expense that has to be spent to keep those items under control. Because if those come back to disease and rodents and controlling that, right?
So that's a lot.
So I'm just trying to be aware and bring up what I see kind of emerging and hope that we can do something about it.
I would 100% agree, and I realize, I think code enforcement, from my 4 years on the council, they are really good about being responsive to stuff like that. We have 50% of Olean are renters. When there's garbage that are garbage bags out front, they're very good with those types of issues. It's quickly resolved. It's the larger, more problematic, I'm sure more time-consuming issues in a neighborhood, the blighted houses, the absent landlords that require tons of time and attention. And I mean, I'm in favor of trying to offer whatever it is this body can possibly do to expand, whether it's an additional person, you know, obviously that's the mayor's call, but that may be something that we look at adding to try to, since the third person they have are doing, Ryan's doing a lot of the safety inspections, I mean the rental inspections, maybe we need to look at ways to try to help them, right? I mean, I was going to say, you know, additionally, if there are any laws that you guys could pass along to us that would help you guys, the way we have with the rental inspection, the way you know we're working together on the short-term rental unit, like what else can we do to make your job easier? Maybe you say, well, geez, you know, I can't enforce this because there's not a law on the books, you know, please communicate to us, and I'm be more than happy, because I know that's probably the thing that takes at least most of my time up with residents are code issues, and I'm always bombarding you with requests. How do we make you guys more efficient?
Well, you know, our codes department does an excellent job, and they're very attentive, I think, to all of them. And this always becomes an issue of budget time. I mean, how many years in a row have we put in for additional positions, and those are always, you know, cut. So Kevin, I think you said it becomes a monetary issue.
Yeah.
How do we do this?
Okay, so I think that's going to be an ongoing issue. I don't think we have any quick fixes right now.
No.
But Mr. Jennings, Captain Jennings, if you ever have any ideas, please pass them on. Within reason. Okay, approval of committee reports. Do we have any reports to approve?
Yes.
Which one's those?
That's
Just the PL.
PL 4928.
And that is going to come back on November 10th, and also in the meantime be published. So we have to make a motion? I'll make a motion. Can I have a second?
So seconded.
Seconded by Alderman Dougherty. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approved. Okay, I think that's it. So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, John.
Okay, I'm going to call to order the strategic planning meeting for Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. Let the record show that all aldermen are present. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous committee meeting. Could I get a second, please? Seconded by Alderman Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. No unfinished business. We have new referrals. We have two from Alderman Witte. We've got PL 59-20 and PL 60-20 to authorize the granting of an easement of a portion of city-owned property to the owner of the properties located at 113 and 121 East Arlington Avenue for a landscape buffer. Where is East Arlington Avenue?
That's the pump station.
Yeah, that's the.
Arlington?
It should be Arlen, it auto-corrected. I'm sorry.
It's not, yeah. I'm like, where is East Arlington?
Yeah.
Arlen.
Yeah.
Arlen.
It's right on the resolution.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
All right. I'm reading from the thing, sorry. Okay, so it is correct on the resolution.
Yeah.
All right, so here are the resolutions. With the proper tax parcels. So Alderman Witte,
Yes.
would you like to talk about this?
This came out of a meeting that the mayor and Director Ring and myself and Brad Camp had with these landowners. And this particular property owner just wanted to be able to do some landscaping. So we come about 4 feet onto Arlen Avenue. And so we, at that meeting, we agreed to do this, and this just makes it basically legal. Bob, is there anything else you want to add to it?
What? Charlie Brown's teacher, what was that?
I couldn't
didn't hear
remember.
it.
Sorry. And I think Bill and I both agreed that in the meeting, I think this is more in the next part of the legality of it, but, Mayor, and then more say on.
There was, yeah, after, talking to the resident there's not an issue with, she's using it now. So we just want to make it official. She wanted to make it official, that they can use it for their plants and stuff. And this is the way to do it. It needs an easement from the city to do this.
Was there an easement already granted to the other owner, the Lees on the other side?
The lease?
The Lees, yeah.
There was, I don't know if there was actually an easement, but way back when.
Right, there was that permission to use it as a driveway or
Yeah,
something,
Yeah, I
and
don't know
then.
if there was an actual easement or just somebody said, go ahead, nobody's.
Right. Wasn't that part of like the negotiating to allow them to continue to use that as well?
There's gonna be space made available for them to have their driveway.
Like kind of like on street parking for a paper street?
I didn't hear you, like what?
Like kind of like on street parking, right? Like if it's a paper street, you would just make a little spot for them to have on street parking.
So this is pretty straightforward.
So who is it with the landscape buffer? Is that the?
The local.
Okay, the Wilkett, so along their property line.
Right.
And then the other, there's 2 ingress and egress. What is I understand the Lees would be one. Who's the other?
That's
What
the
is
second
that?
resolution.
The Sorokas,
Yeah.
they own a parcel behind their homes there. So this would just give them so that they would have access to those parcels if need be.
This is
For their parcel.
This is local, and these are the 2 parcels.
I don't know.
Okay.
Just the whole Stardust program. I mean, it took forever. You know what I mean? Just the whole like it was in the works, and then there was miscommunication, and then we had to go back for surveys. I mean, we've worked out all the kinks on this, or should we like make Nick double check his I's and dot his T's, like clearly like Arlington Avenue? You know what I mean? I don't want to. I would hate to have this, you know what I mean, pass these easements and then have something.
Nick is involved in this.
He is, okay.
Nick prepared the resolution.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I didn't know if we should give it, like a week or so, or readjust with the surveys or whatever. I don't want to give them an easement and then we have to come back in like 3 weeks and recorrect it because the city screwed up again, quote unquote. Not,
It's spelled wrong, but on the resolution it's spelled right.
Right. I just.
Are we putting in a clause where we're gonna have some control over what kind of vegetation barrier they put up?
I think
Like
it's just
kind of like the subways, like you can't put hedges in the subway on a regular street.
Yeah, it's gonna be basic stuff, they're not gonna put like 10-foot trees or anything.
Right, but I don't know, you,
Does an easement carry over from one land property owner to the next?
yeah, they do. They can. There's one coming up, actually, that we have to discuss that was one of the rare few, but.
I don't think it does because that's the next one coming up that we need to. because
Right, that's,
Property on Witte Avenue is being sold, so we have to be.
Okay.
because
All
they
right.
have
So
an
it- So it
expiration.
does not carry over?
Well, they normally
I
do.
don't think so, John. That's a next question, but I don't think it does.
Okay. My other question on this, Linda, is, so just with the way that everything kind of has gone, is there going to be any backlash from other neighbors because of the city entering into this, or do you not see that as the case? There are,
What other neighbors? These are the two that affect the project.
I thought.
Yeah, the mob that got mad that we didn't notify neighbors
Well,
within a 6-block radius or something.
Is there
like
anyone
that?
else there that will come here and say that they'll be upset at us for
Well, if you want to
allowing
look at
this?
these are just the properties that touch.
These are the only properties that touch them. So the Sudas are not one of those properties.
That would the
They're
lease,
ones
that's what it was.
in the driveway. So they're getting a driveway.
They're getting a driveway?
Yeah.
They're getting a place to park their
Oh.
car.
So they
But is
are
that-
going these beyond, right?
Is-
No?
That's already,
Oh, I see.
And that's already
They
handled?
touch-
That's what I was asking, because I was expecting a third one if there's 3
see.
budding properties.
Kevin, that's even on the picture in the plans for their little driveway.
So are these,
Right.
these easements, are they on the current right of way
Okay.
off the main, or are they coming in on a different?
It will be on
Do you
the
want to look at this?
You want to send it that way? Here.
Do you want to look at
Jason.
that, Vernon?
right away off of Main.
No, I already looked into it.
I don't know if Jason wants to see that
It will
picture.
be on,
No, I saw
it will be
this.
off of James Street, Jason.
Okay, off where the driveway is for the new pump station.
Yep, and his lot over there.
Uh,
I'd like a new survey done.
Everybody can visualize that. I have
I
the.
mean, it seems like
So how is she getting a new
small
driveway?
spot. I mean,
Well, 'cause it's on the
gives them
plans,
room
which-
to- I don't know what kind of access they're
That's
gonna
what I was
get
saying.
out of- Is it just walking
Where's the driveway?
access, or?
No,
Who's on first?
The Walcotts, all they want is an easement so she can keep.
Right, I get
No,
that.
who's on second?
And the driveway going up there will be 10-foot wide.
Mhm.
And that's what the easement will be, to allow, the Sirokuses to have access to their back property.
Okay.
So,
And you're welcome to drive over and check it out anytime, just wear boots because it's kind of muddy right now.
I check it out from time to time to see how it's going.
And so the Lees are able to park, they have an agreement to be able to park
Yes.
on the road?
Shouldn't there be?
So they're able to park on the right of way?
Yeah, I mean, that was built in.
Okay.
Design,
Okay,
the position of the driveway.
okay.
Gotcha. I just,
But that's fully on the right of way.
Yeah.
so there's no
Part of the
easement
plan.
required then,
That's
is what you're getting
their little
at?
driveway.
Oh,
It was built into the
oh, well,
plan.
that's nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Yep, this is the
There's still
leaves,
gonna be a gate that locks beyond.
okay?
No,
Yeah,
okay.
well, thanks. Cool.
compromised on that too, and unless we end up finding there's a need for a gate, we said no, because it's,
Unsightly?
doesn't go anywhere, it's open straight back.
Right, that was one of the points of discussion with that meeting.
And they don't need a new survey.
Still allows them to use that driveway that we're building if they need to get into that unlocked property. in the back.
Right now, both lots are vacant, they haven't put anything.
And nobody needs a new survey? Just checking.
Everyone's good.
Okay.
I think we're good,
Okay.
okay? Any other questions, John?
So, I'm good, just as long as nobody comes back to us.
Oh, never say no.
We're good.
Okay.
Are you, oh, I'm sorry. This is mine. All right. So, would you like to make a motion, Linda?
Yes, I'll make a motion to authorize an easement agreement between the city of Olean and the landowners at tax parcel 94.034/4/1.
Okay. So, motion's been made on PL 59-20 and
To
60-20
Approve and refer, right?
we're referring to the regular meeting. Can I get a second, please? I'll go ahead and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Which meeting is this going to? Do we have to advertise or post it?
Just the next regular meeting.
Is it? Okay.
Okay. So next we have PL 62-20 by Mayor Alio granting another easement here, this time at 122 Witte Avenue for ingress, an easement.
This was actually supposed to be Kevin.
Yeah.
Sponsoring this, but if you want to talk, or I can talk now.
Sure. I was approached by the landowner and the realtors involved in this because they thought it was my ward. It's just over the border of my ward, so it's actually in Dave's ward. But essentially, almost all easements do not have an expiration date, and so this was odd because in the actual abstract, they had an expiration date on this easement. And so now, the city has always abided by that easement when we had Whitney Parklet coming up to it, and with the easement expired, they really could have just moved our fence there and completely blocked the only entrance to this building. I believe it's a 3-unit building, so the tenants would have like zero access to get into their building. So essentially, we're just looking to renew this and then do what most easements have and have it in perpetuity. So it's pretty boilerplate, something that should have been done years ago, but and it's obviously holding up the sale because nobody wants to buy a building that you can't get into or doesn't have the easement, the right to get into it. So
Where's this at, Kevin?
it's over on Whitney Avenue, is right alongside the railroad tracks off of North Union Street between North Union and First.
Now, which, is it the big white building?
It's the white building, yeah, correct. That also abuts Mr. Pallet.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's to do with that little park we have there.
Yeah.
Any potential issues with
No.
this one?
No, I believe all the surveys and abstracts have been done and recorded
good?
and whatever, so they're.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'll make a
All right.
motion to refer to the next.
Can I get a motion, please?
I said I'll make a motion to refer to the next committee meeting
Awesome.
or council meeting. Sorry.
All right, so seconded, motion made by Alderman Dougherty, seconded by Alderman Witte. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
John, can we just go back? I know we approved the landscaping. Are we having the same sponsors approving the second one?
I said,
Easement too?
Yeah, can you kind of lump both of them in together?
I lumped both together, Linda, if you got both, didn't you, Tiffany?
Yep. Okay.
All right.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you lump both? Just kidding.
All right, on to discussion items, local student volunteers for committees, Alderman Robinson.
All right, real quick, this is something that I sent you guys an email on, but it was something that I thought of for our kids here in the Olean community, particularly Olean High. I would not be opposed to, oh my goodness, the Catholic school down there. Walsh. But it was something where I felt like if to try to get something for the kids in the community to have towards school, especially with the things going on, money's tight. We're not trying to do a hiring or anything like that, or trying to pay off the kids or anything, but trying to get them to bring themselves forward voluntarily, and in essence, we reward them with something monetarily, $250, $500. That's enough to pay for 2-3 books, and or a letter, something that they could use towards a resume or something of that nature. But my goal was to try to get the kids involved in the community, try to encourage them to actively participate in government affairs, particularly in their community, and also because these are the younger generation, so to get some diversity going within the committees. A lot of the young guys, the young kids out there have some good ideas, and they're looking to be heard, and I think this would be an opportunity for them to join one of the committees and let them, experience that. And then some of the benefits, I highlighted, it could be a learning experience for them. And again, they'd be getting actively involved in their community. A lot of these kids, are active now in their schools and so forth, and I think it's be an opportunity for them to get involved in government. And it's also a good way of networking. They can meet, some of the local politicians, some of the local leaders, community groups. And again, it helps to pad their working school resumes. As far as filtering these kids, I have not looked into that. I was looking for ideas, but I was thinking that we could use any one of the teachers at the high school that would be willing to assist, to help select one or two high school students that were interested, if they put their name in the hat, if there was actually that many kids that were interested, to select one or two and let them select what committee they'd be interested in instead of appointing them, if one wanted to be in a diversity committee or wanted to sit here with the council as a way of observing and, illustrating some of the things they may be interested in. All ears. I just wanted to do something for the kids in the area. And I'm actually contemplating doing something myself and creating some type of scholarship that will go yearly for the kids here. So I'm all ears.
So I would advocate that it not be a paid situation. I know, like, my daughter's going through the whole National Honor Society application thing. There's a lot of volunteer,
Report.
Yeah. And this could be a good opportunity for a lot of high school kids to get, I wouldn't want to say easy volunteer time, but valuable volunteer time.
Yep. And my wife mentioned that too, that there was something with the volunteering.
You have at the high school now, you have the participatory government program. And that might be, and I want you also to keep in mind, we not only have Archbishop Falls, but we also have the Christian Academy this year, down on Northdale School.
Okay.
Okay. So, I think this is a fantastic idea. I agree with Paul. I don't think we should compensate.
Not like the
I don't know what difficulties we would get into that. But there is a lot of the kids that do need community service hours and get them involved. And this is a great way to do it.
Problem is, they don't
I would
ever
say,
reach out to us, Bill.
what's that?
They don't ever reach out to us to get them in here.
Participatory government?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a Zoom meeting with them, talked to their class about government now. So,
Okay.
and we get,
Well, are you talking about when they come to the meeting and give assignment forms?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's,
yeah.
this would be more involved. This is
Right.
where they-
Yeah, and I don't want them showing up for like 2 meetings and being like, "I did it. You guys signed off on it. See ya."
I'm just saying
Yeah.
that participatory government may be an avenue to get kids who
Sure.
want to be more involved.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, you have all this going on, but, yes, National Honor Society needs hours, but you have, there's a lot of kids who may want to get involved.
And with the
paying,
teen
I
center
think
closed.
That's, we may want to stay away from that. I mean, we only pay our zoning board and our planning board $400 a year, but
And historic.
great idea. Get more involvement from we have to take a look at the charter and see if it's permissible to put on like our committees here, your committees here, if it's permissible, or if we just have them come in and let them say their piece. I mean, that's give them. Right now, I've been approached by Carolyn DeRose, who wants flashing lights on Reed Street at the crossing there, Reed and 7th. I'm not sure if she's talking Reed and 7th or Reed and 6th. So I've been emailing her back and forth and saying, well, I'd like to meet with you and discuss this, what you have in mind. It's been by email so far. So I'm waiting to meet with her, see what they have in mind, and then bring it forward. We'll bring it forward. So, Well, it's a good opportunity for some of our high school kids to get involved in the operation of the city.
I think it's a great idea. I agree about the money. I know for the youth bureau, for instance, just go to the who you pick, to be honest. They have to submit letters to why they're interested.
Letter of intent.
Yeah, and I think that's a way to kind of really see the kids that are serious and the kids that are just looking to do something. I think anytime you can get them involved at this time. I know when I was there, I had a couple kids that actually did internships. One of them did an internship with Fred, and then he went on. He has his MBA now. He went into accounting, but he learned a lot about how government works. And I think part of it is scratched his head like, why are we doing things this way? But he learned a lot, and there are other people that did internships. So we do have kids that just step up and ask, can I do this? And we do it by case. But I think, asking them to write a letter. Why do you want us to be? And then follow that up with a letter from the committee saying they participated, so they have some recognition. And I think, Bill, at the end, or at some point, you could have some type of recognition that they participated in that committee, before they graduate. And it looks good on their resume going to college. So I think it's a great idea, and I'd be all for it.
It's two good ideas there so far.
I wouldn't even throw out the money thing if we don't have anybody interested. If you have to gain interest, I can see starting to throw in, and where offering a little bit of money for it doesn't seem ridiculous to me. I think that comes into play if we have no one.
Right. But if you do it for if you do it for kids who sit on a certain committee, then you should be doing it for the kids that go to youth court, or the kids that are on the youth court, because they're giving up their time. Bill can explain that. You've been a big part of the youth girl. The kids that they spend a lot of time with them.
Internships, those are big things. I mean, my granddaughter was in there for second year of law school at Syracuse University. She's going to be doing an internship here with the attorney, federal attorney's office, and that's not a paid internship. So it's about getting the experience and moving forward with that. And these are all good things that will look good on the resume.
Oh yeah, I get it. I just think, there's an aspect out there where there's people that may not do it if it's not there, or they may have a job, they work and they get $100 a month, and they're not going to come here. But I'm saying if we don't have, if we need to, right, that's where we come into play. If we need to incentivize a little bit, I wouldn't be against that.
I think we would get, especially with everything that's going on, look at it right now, when we're having our committee meetings. I think last week was their last week, but those guys were out there, and you had at least 10, 15 bodies out there every Tuesday. So I'm pretty sure, one of those guys would love to volunteer and get in on some type of committee, and help out and add their input.
And I'm sure there's, just thoughts
so.
too. There's times when
Perfect timing.
When I want to look into some code issues or something that has some metrics, but do I have the time during the day or even the availability to come down here, talk to Ed, go see the mayor? I could see that being real useful for someone involved in that way, to help us out.
Yep.
Alderman Dougherty's Ward 4 office is always looking for intern volunteers. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
very good.
Yeah.
Like Free America?
No, like The Boss. Like The Boss with Kelsey Grammer, where he plays the mayor of Chicago.
I'm talking about the Seinfeld where Kramer gets the intern to help him run the state.
All right. Okay, so do you got some
So somebody-
direction?
Yeah, I had some.
Okay. Good to go?
Yep.
All right, so moving along here, another discussion item. I spoke to the mayor a little bit about this, and I sent Bill and Paul an email, and Bill suggested bringing this forward. Fortunately, we talked a little bit already about this, but the transition to go live streaming of our council meetings, really looking for, I suppose, just a conversation, opinions, the transition plan, getting away from the archaic television feed, and now that we have this new program to do live streaming on multiple different formats, Facebook, YouTube, this, that, and the other thing, what does the council and the mayor feel is the best way to go about the transition?
So I think we should definitely go that way. Get away from the coaxial cable broadcast nonsense that we've been doing, go straight to the what we're, whatever the heck Jason does with the iPad, right?
Right.
I think there's more IT that needs to be work that needs to go into it. For example, the mics need to feed directly into it, just like they do on this thing. But yeah, what are we doing? We should be going that way.
Now, by any chance, so I have not watched it live, but I have seen after it goes live, obviously. Yeah, I know. That was stupid, right? So, but I have watched the recording, so it automatically uploads a recorded video to YouTube. And when you speak into your mics, I mean, it's pretty clear. Have you happened to get it? The picture's very good?
Only because you have to blast into it and it makes your voice louder in the room.
Right.
Right. But
there's got to be a way.
better way.
Technology we could buy that
Right.
we don't already own it.
Right.
That it would make it like
Sure.
Right. I used to set up sound rigs at bars and restaurants, and you mic every part of the drum set. You mic the guitar. If you can't get it to plug directly into an amplifier, at which point you're sending the feedback. You're getting a crisper signal by having each and every person being mic'd.
maybe this is something we need to pay somebody to come do, right?
And there's details, right? Because George runs camera, he's probably done that for years. Nobody's like panning the streaming thing around to people are speaking and such. I mean, we have to decide, somebody's gonna do it. It doesn't matter to me, but, right, we have to come up with the way it gets done. I imagine Jason Wells isn't usually here at night, but it seems like he's always been here when we're streaming, so there's something there that needs worked out.
Can I ask a question? I haven't seen it, but when we're doing the streaming, do we zoom in on the interpreters at all? Are they part of the picture?
No.
So
No,
going
there's-
forward, do we need them, or are we going to need the captions?
Well, and that's the other question, and I, again, late, I sent out an email, and Jason is out today, but I believe the program does allow closed captioning.
That's what I thought.
Bill, do you have any thoughts?
Jason's out on sick leave.
Yeah.
A little bit. He'll be out probably all this week. But he did send an email back. I didn't read it fully, but apparently there is a way it can be done. So he's working on that. So I'd like to get his input when he gets back and see where we're going to go with this. So I think it's doable.
Do we have any obligation to the cable company for that deal? I mean, can we just say, hey, we're not doing this anymore?
I don't think we have an obligation to the cable company. It's a service that they offer to us.
Okay.
It's a high-end service they offer us.
I mean, I'm sure
They don't.
It's
we
they're
early
don't-
baby
advertising
boomer
their channels got-
technology.
We ask them for updated equipment, they balk at that, say if we wanna buy it, we can. They give us the access on the channel, so, if I don't know if those of you who recall, we did buy a new TV back here, maybe 7 years ago, because the other one was bad. They did do some help on, or they did some upgrading on,
We got a good brush.
St. Vinny's. Do they make those anymore?
we got a good deal on it.
Yeah, it's like an original Star Trek console there.
One of the problems we really have no way of telling, of knowing, I guess, the better, how many people actually are watching our house.
How do radio stations do it? How do radio stations tell you every person and every, because they seem to know every doctor's office that's tuned in.
What our Neeson ratings are and whatever it is.
I mean, I'll guarantee there's a number of elderly population that still watch what's on cable.
Yeah, if you ask them to.
But I don't think they tune in on channel 6 at 6:30 on Tuesday nights.
Matlock's on at 7, so.
Watch this and think, yeah, where,
You know, and I'll go back to when we were down for a while there, we didn't broadcast our meetings for a while. They get
Nothing.
No, we get complaints, you know, at my office or anything there. I know of a couple people that may watch it, okay? And,
From Florida.
but they can probably, you know, upgrade to the streaming now. So.
and I don't think we have an obligation to provide the sign language. There's nothing, no offense to the two ladies that come and do that, they're great, but,
Is it closed caption?
Yeah, because, I mean, every
Closed caption, do we even need that?
every television channel.
Bradford puts their city council meetings on there, I don't have to worry about that, they just do it. We're done with it.
I would,
I mean, auto captioning is pretty good, and I mean, 20 years from now, I'll probably.
And that's what most of them offer. I don't know if public access offers that, but like I had to go fix my 96-year-old neighbor's. She called me and says, I can't get it to DVR record, and I had to call the cable company for her, and they're like, sometimes the actual channel will be down. And that was it. That was it. The channel, each channel offers that service, and they do it automatically for all of their shows.
She just forgot to hit the TV video button.
No, I went through all that stuff for her. But no, I didn't realize it was still a thing. But yeah, they auto do it. So I mean, essentially, they're automatically doing what our signers are being paid to do.
so the feedback I've received, like, I mean, to Bill's point, when we were down, I never got one call that we weren't up and running our TV broadcast. I've never had one person ask me about the TV broadcast, but I have had constituents say, why the heck aren't you streaming online? We would, you know, so you go where the demand is, and I haven't heard one person indicate, you know, that they care whether or not we continue existing on cable access or whatever it is. But I've had tons of people say, why aren't you streaming? And so I think if the consensus is like, let's just make that transition, and what that time frame is, Bill, obviously we defer to you and your team, whether you train, however you want to schedule it, whether Jason trains George or whatever, you know, that's your department, but.
And I also don't want to rule out the notion that maybe we need to outsource this project to a vendor that can actually do this professionally and correctly. I'm just going to put that out there. I think we should consider all options when it comes to how we go about setting this whole situation up.
As long as we don't end up with AEI, I don't want to go with this.
No, I know, but Jason and Jerry have got a lot going on as well, and, you know.
I think I agree with you to a certain point, but I think we have to prioritize when we put staff, and I think just looking at what we heard about codes tonight, I guess I would put money towards that first, than having a professional come in.
I'm not talking about hiring someone,
Oh, I
like
thought
a
that's-
staff member, I'm talking about hiring a person to come in and set up our system, so they can do that. This is what you need this.
So it's just a one-time.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, oh God, no way.
Okay. Thank you
Well, I
for
guess I
clearing
would
that up.
put it on our guys. Can you take it where it needs to go, and if not, whatever we gotta do, we gotta do.
And then in April,
I'll volunteer,
now, we
and-
haven't done anything with it, and it's not working, we're going to redirect back to the hire somebody.
I've been offering it since the get-go. I still do this because we miss nights.
Yeah, we can work with, you know, whatever, but yeah, I'm with John. I think it's time to kick the old thing and
Yeah, I've
upgrade,
never
and,
heard of
but get it
The boob tube.
where all the details are worked out, and it's not a worse product than the cable we want to get rid of.
Wasn't
Right,
there
the cable's
another
clunky, and you got this
topic?
big camera, but if we just went there streaming the way it is, it's pointed kind of over here and might hear us. That's not good.
So, I don't know, as far as a time frame goes, I mean, what do you think, Bill? Do you think you need to talk to Jason and see?
Well, let's do this, if it's agreeable to everybody. Jason should be back to work, again, either the end of this week or the first of the week. So if we, let's have him come to the next committee meeting. Okay, this will be in 2 weeks. Kevin, you gotta show notes, you gotta write notes, you gotta show everything.
It says COVID question mark.
And, I'll have him start to put something together, and I think we can ask some questions of him. And, if they can't handle it, then we outsource, like Paul said, and we get a company to come in and set us all up, and then we go from there.
Then we turn the keys over to George.
Right.
I mean, if all he has to do I mean, maybe getting it set up is the tricky part, but like, you know, I mean, Jason did a good job. He stood there and just does this, you know, and I mean, if George can be trained to do that, and I mean, also, I guess, I don't know what the consensus is with the council, but I guess I believe that our committee meetings should be broadcast as well. So I think for the sake of transparent government and.
I thought we were scheduled for that, but.
Well, I mean, maybe have we been broadcasting now that I'm thinking about it?
Yeah, Jason
We have been broadcasting our committees?
He was here, but there again.
Okay, okay.
Well, we gotta, yeah, you're right, we gotta.
Confer to my notes.
A couple of people, that are capable of, the ones not here coming in and doing it. So,
Okay.
right now, every night Jason's here, that's overtime.
Right.
So we wanna, do what we do.
Okay.
It's like trying to get Bill away from Outlook.
So we'll
teach
we'll
George
wait
stuff.
to hear back from you then, Mayor. All right, Paper Street maintenance issues, Mr. Panus.
Oh boy, here's another hour.
Yeah.
I forgot about this one.
So, I mean, it sounds like we got some things going. The one that came to mind was King Street Park Avenue. The folks up there, I sent an email out, everybody saw a little frustration on that one. I want to understand, where do we stand on paper streets, right? They're our property, but if we're not doing anything on them, we tend to just let them overgrow and do whatever they do. And as I stated in the email, I feel like we're the grubby neighbors between two nice houses that doesn't do anything with the property. And I don't like the way that feels. And I want to know, is that how everybody feels, or am I kind of standing out on my own here?
No, I agree. I think we've had so many people in the past that have come that want to take the paper street. I think it was last year or 2 years ago. I had a family that wanted to add on to their house, and it would have encroached on a paper street that nobody uses, but they can't do that. And Nick explained it to us, but I just think we have to, are we just going to leave them? And
right, I mean, I know Bob doesn't like to give up the streets. They were there at the right of ways were designed at some point for future development or some kind of development or access or infrastructure maybe. But I feel like we need some kind of better maintenance of them, or a different way we treat them.
Everything
the
you
way,
bring.
the way they look, I mean, it's a small piece of property, but if we're not maintaining it, we're like a code violator that doesn't have to answer to codes on this piece of property. And I don't know, that doesn't sit right with me. I feel like we should keep them neat. If there's trees in rough shape, they should come down. Maybe they should just be clear cut to the right way. I don't know. But I think leaving them just overgrow and they become problems. I mean, most of the calls I've dealt with in the last year have been around paper streets. And the fact that the maintenance on them is not done, or somebody's doing it, but other ones are using it, So I'm not necessarily, I've drifted away from any thought that we should be giving them up to neighbors unless we absolutely say, hey, we're never, ever going to need this for a street or a water line or whatever. But I think we should propose a different maintenance plan on them, where we keep some kind of level, something better than what we got going on. I don't know, do you have a rough idea how many paper streets there are in the city?
Yeah, we have a map of them.
I mean, is it like thousands, or is there 20?
I was gonna say 15 or 20.
Yeah, so it's not a lot.
I mean, talking about a street developed, in a lot of cases, we're requiring the property owner to maintain their sidewalk. We're
Oh, that's right.
The center of these paper streets. So it really is up to the property owner to maintain it. I know that there's been, the issue that we're dealing with, between King and King Street.
So what,
That was decided that we would take care of that trees, and I think that's probably not a bad idea to take a lot of things and dangerous trees. And as far as, I don't know examples, a lot of examples of where the messy neighbor, it's really up to neighbors that order these to mow them.
so that's a good point you made, but I guess what I'd like to know, if people come forward and want advice, so let's say, you've seen the Park Avenue off King from the recent discussion, right? What if those neighbors got together and decided they wanted to clear cut that thing out, and they're just gonna mow grass on it? Do we do anything about that, or have a problem with that, or could they do that?
No, I think they can, and I think they should, or a lot of them are clear, even Ireland Ave, if you walk up there and up to the side where those other paper streets are, at one point, they were clear, probably when they were getting ready to develop those, but there, it goes both ways. How many people have sheds and fences and other pieces, other whatever on their properties, and we really want to get into that. Like, are we going to then force, all our paper streets be cleared of all these things?
Mhm.
So it goes both ways.
And I think there's something to that. If
Suited driveways.
even with this Park Avenue thing, I'd have to talk to those folks, see how they feel about it, but, if they were allowed to clear that thing to their liking, they may not have a problem with our maintenance of it.
So,
Just for instance, you mentioned the people that live on both sides, the one side, they've had a driveway on it, knowing that someday they might have to give it up. On the other side, they have cut the grass, they have done things, so people are doing.
Oh, yeah, it's felt like a gray area where, when this issue came up on King Street, and I presented some options, these folks feel like they don't have the right to come in and clear that property out. It's overgrown too much. It's to the point where they feel like if they went cutting trees down or something.
so they would have to get a permit.
Right, they might, yeah.
Well, they would have to get a permit. So, because Bob pointed out something really. I was having a discussion with Vernon before the meeting, which was that a lot of property owners own up to the curb, but there are some property owners that own up to the middle of the street, and I'm assuming that most of those paper streets probably are the instances where property owners own up to a middle of the street. And we don't force somebody to maintain the street normally. If you have to I don't have to shovel. If my neighbor owns up to the curb and I own to the middle of the street, the city doesn't expect me to go out and shovel the street in my spot because I own that. But on a paper street, it could be assumed that there is no curb, there is no street, but it is a paper street. So you're required to maintain the grass and the trees and any dangerous whatever on these paper streets, just as they would on their subway. Over top of, if there was a sidewalk running on it, we'd expect them to shovel it. And that's kind of a shitty thing to say to people, but at the same time,
They paid for it through tax assessment. When paved streets, like when paving commission went through in the 80s and 90s, and all these streets were built with curb, those people paid for it.
special assessment tax.
10 years.
Right.
Yeah, we haven't had a paving commission since.
And if you live in a corner, you pay for 2 streets.
Yeah.
Right, and these people aren't paying any additional tax on the street because it's not improved. And
It's easier to mow than it is to shovel the center of a street.
right, so
Pay for the curbing.
they pay us.
But if you want to remove a tree from your subway, you got to go to the city DPW office, and then you show them your dig safely number to make sure you're not going to disrupt any water lines, sewer lines, gas, any of that stuff. And then they let you pull the permit, showing you have the proper insurance or the contractor does, and you can drop the trees all you want.
Not everybody does it that way, though.
No. What do you mean?
Not everybody goes that way. Sometimes they take it down themselves, right?
Right, but they're required to pull a permit.
Right.
Right. So you could advise them to not follow the procedure.
What's the permit for taking down a tree?
It's like $30, $50.
Right, what's the criteria?
You call Dig Safely, New York State Dig Safely, and make sure you don't.
Criteria that determines you need a city permit to take down.
Oh, because it's in a public right of way.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'd have to go to DPW versus like a building permit or some other codes permit.
Okay.
We have, one more thing, Todd's gonna give you a report on Washington Street, what's going on there, before we,
What's
before we break.
You done with your discussion?
All
Jason?
right.
Yeah, I'm
So-
okay with it for now. I may want to revisit it. That's good.
Okay, so Bob,
Okay.
Director Ring.
Washington Street water line is fully completed, at least water line is in. It's been tested and all residents are now hooked up to it. All intersections are now hooked up, there won't be any shutdowns. The contractor is moving on to patching, moving on to concrete replacement, we're gonna take out state driveway or curb or sidewalk. There is a bit of bad news, we're not gonna get the mill date this year, mainly because the blacktop line will not say it's gonna pass after the 30th. So because of it being such a large stretch, it takes a long time to mill it, clean out the whole road, so we're gonna hold that mill. Just catch basins and then we'll be talking about 2-week prep, so we can have time to fit that in. You know, there are concerns, some of the trenches will settle over time, so it's not all bad news, we'll get a better job in the spring. It's a high priority for the contractor, and don't forget that there's potentially a phase 2 to Washington Street. We're still working through the grant challenges, but I followed up this week with our consultant on getting our ducks in a row to close on this grant, we can reimburse for the full cost of the grant, we'll have funding in place to do phase 2, which will mean a mill date for the whole length of the project.
Bob, is that, can I ask you, so we're still waiting on something from the state to say phase 2 is a go-ahead?
Yes, well, the granting agencies, which is DSC, we actually have to rewrite our design report because we added a section, and we have to pass a top resolution. Just to kind of remind you, we have to talk about this before, so there's like 3 elements that go through the design report and the top resolution. We've got the original element.
What,
And
yeah.
after that, it takes 3 months for it to go through the various CFC committees. So we want to at least get to the point where it's being passed through these committees before we come back and say, now's the time to make a decision on phase 2. And I can go over all the monetary implications of that. But it won't be, you won't have to borrow from it.
Right. So it's possible that phase 2 may not occur next year?
No, I wouldn't say that.
You wouldn't say that?
The contractor has actually been asking us regularly, they want schedule work, and I've told them that we're 85, 90% there. We don't have money now. It has to be reimbursable funds
Yeah.
to spend on phase 2, and we just don't want to start a project without money.
And if that funding was approved, would we move forward with the next water line phase and then pave the whole thing at once? Is that how you would?
Assuming the council decided that they wanted to approve that $700,000 change order, which, like I said, would be paid for with grant money.
Right. Okay.
Yes, you still have to pass this change order and award phase 2 to our contractor.
But we get reimbursed.
Potential.
Yeah, I remember we kind of went over it.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask a question about,
Yeah.
this is, since we were talking about Ireland, do you know what's going on with the Stardust pump station? Because nobody's been there for the last week or two. What's the next update or stuff?
They're gonna start building the building. Brad has been more involved in as of late, but I think they had to go finish another job, and we need to build the building and make building connections.
So is that going to happen in next week or 2 weeks or? asked me why nothing was going on, so I just wanted to check on it.
Well,
Do they have,
we got them easements.
do they have a time frame to get that foundation in the ground, Bob, before they might have to shut down for the year, or?
I don't think they're gonna shut down for the year.
No.
You know, if it means, you know, that it's below 40 at night, which is less than ideal conditions, to pour concrete, then heating blankets, there's nothing that
Okay.
can't be done.
Okay, so they'll work right through until completion.
What's that?
They'll work right through to completion. on that
Yeah,
project.
and our guys have a lot of work to do there too. Our electricians and our water team have to work inside the building.
Okay.
So,
Yep, they were just curious on something that happened. Okay.
Calcium flakes work wonders.
Okay. Anything else, Bill?
I know some people, I mean,
Okay.
graphic plan.
Anything else from the
Yeah.
council?
You get graphic.
Seeing nothing, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Wait, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the committee reports. Second by Alderman Gonzalez, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Could I get a second? Second by Alderman Gonzalez, all in favor? Aye.
Nay.
One nay.
I wanted to stay longer, you guys.
One nay.